They are the insiders, Chris Johnson and Darren Dreger. Guys, when Austin Matthews missed Tuesday's game, Craig Berube said, no big deal. It's an upper body injury, and he's just resting a little. But when he missed practice again on Thursday morning, the concern ratcheted up. CJ, what's your understanding of Matthews' timeline now?
Well, I don't see any reason for anyone to freak out or panic too much just yet, because the plan still is what it's been all along. Austin Matthews is resting his body, is giving himself a chance to recover here. And as we look ahead to the weekend, there are back-to-back games for the Leafs. I wouldn't expect you would see him on Friday when the Leafs host the Detroit Red Wings, but Saturday's game against Montreal, at least at this point in time, has not been ruled out for Matthews. It's a possibility. He's in a position to return as soon as then. And so really the Leafs and Matthews are taking this day by day with an injury that he's been managing to some degree since training camp. And, you know, it's been a busy schedule. I think the Leafs and the player here are mindful of where they're at. But there's nothing yet to suggest this is going to be a long-term thing.
Well, the Leafs try to calm the level of concern. Preds general manager Barry Trotz just lit a fire in Nashville after spending a fortune in the offseason to make a run for now. And just 4 wins in their first 13 games. Trotz said, and I quote, if we don't get it going soon, it might be time to start our rebuild plan. Dregs, is he serious about that or just publicly venting?
No, it's taken out of context. What he meant was rebuild in terms of renovation, not rebuild in the traditional sense that we've grown accustomed to with teardowns in the National Hockey League. But frankly, Barry Trotz and the Nashville Predators aren't there yet. They brought in Brady Shea to build up their defense. They brought in Stamkos and Marchessault to help teach and fortify their forwards to give their younger pieces opportunity to develop and grow. But keep this in mind. Trotz may have to insulate further. Let's see how things go in the next 10 games. He's got the pieces to do that. Multiple first-round picks, 2 seconds, and a bevy of young prospects that he could package. So it's more about bringing in materials to add to construction, not a rebuild or tear down.
Speaking of slow starts, the Habs are in the basement of the Atlantic right now. Any chance they try to bolster their roster, Dregs, or is this just part of their rebuilding process?
Well, look, Kent Hughes, like every general manager in the National Hockey League, is making his calls, but I can tell you that there is zero appetite to mortgage the future, use any future pieces to help the here and now. It is a process. The Canadians knew that they weren't going to be great this year. They didn't expect to be a playoff contending team this year. They have to be competitive. They have to be somewhat in the mix, but this is about the future. So, yeah, they'll continue to have conversations, and if the right fit is there, they'll make a move. But, Gino, this is more about the top players for the Montreal Canadiens being better.
And the GMs are coming together next week in Toronto. Any sense of what's on the agenda, CJ?
Well, it's more of a meeting generally where it's an update of various things. But one of those updates I think it stands out is there's one on protective equipment, specifically cut-resistant equipment. And you'll recall the American Hockey League and ECHL has mandated this sort of equipment for neck guards, Achilles, and wrists for all players and officials. And the early word is that that program has gone quite well, that it's worked in the way that it's designed. And so I think it's notable at the NHL level that they'll be discussing this, because at some point down the road, I think that this sort of equipment might be grandfathered in for the NHL. We're not there just yet. That won't be done next week, but certainly the dialogue around that very important issue will continue.
Big news on the junior hockey front. The NCAA has now lifted the ban on CHL players, allowing them to play in Division I schools starting next season. How do you see this affecting the CHL and Canadian university hockey, Dregs?
Well, it has to be about relationship building, and all corners are saying that, right? It's about developing the relationships between U Sport and the NCAA programs, the 3 leagues under the umbrella of the CHL. Still many questions that don't have answers, including that of compensation for players from NILs or other areas. But an important note here, guys, and that is it was a decision made official on this day by Division I Council for implementation August 2025, not Division III. This does not include Division III of the NCAA.
Continues to be a developing story. They are the insiders, Chris Johnston and Darren Dreger.